Welcome to Growing Empires. I'm Jennifer DeJesus, real estate investor and operator. This show takes you behind the scenes of how real estate assets are executed, managed, and positioned for long-term performance. Let's get into it.
Well, hey, Jennifer, welcome back to another conversation. We're just peeling back the curtain and seeing how you're thinking and how you're running these businesses, how everything has evolved. And it's been a learning experience just for me, knowing more about how this all came into being. And in this conversation, I definitely want to talk about leadership. Leadership is a big topic for many people today. Everyone's trying to become a better leader, whether they're in a business, in a corporate world, whether they're leading a team, or whether they're the CEO of the company. And this is something that has been a growth journey for you. And a lot of this you've kind of learned just by doing and being in the situation where you have to bring people in to help you. So let's start by just talking about, as you were starting these companies in your empire ecosystem, and you were realizing that I need help. So talk about some of the first encounters of bringing on a team and getting the help you needed, and what you were learning and being confronted by in becoming the leader that you are today.
Sure. So, the first company that really had employees, I would say, well, it was really two. It was a real estate company and it was the property management company. But obviously, the property management company is the largest company with the most amount of employees. So I guess I'll just start there. Everything was always about efficiency, right? Efficiency, not necessarily automation, but efficiency in what we're doing. So we want to constantly deliver a result and deliver a better result next week or next month. So it was about efficiency. It was about being able to provide the returns that people were expecting and deliver on the results that we were expecting. So when I first started out, it was just me. I was up to maybe 250 units before I actually ever hired my first employee, if you can imagine that. And that employee was an administrative person. And of course, there's been many administrative people over the year, but my very first was just an administrative person to help me take some of the things off my lap that maybe didn't warrant my time or my energy, so that I could focus on things that were of higher value for the clients that we were representing. And we went from one administrative person to now one person out in the field to now a maintenance person. And it just kept growing like that. And it was no different than how I transformed the businesses. I brought people into the businesses on that same kind of model. It is, what is the need? How can we be more efficient tomorrow? What can I do better if I don't have X on my plate today? And then I would hire people that were or could be masters of that specific area. So the initial outlook of the property management company was, we were departmentalized. So I created departments, and every person in the department mastered whatever that department did. So if you were in maintenance, you mastered maintenance. If you were in leasing, you mastered leasing, and so on and so forth. So what I was hiring was people that I could train the skill to. And that skill was my processes, my SOPs that allowed the business to provide the results or to achieve the results that the investors were looking for. But it literally was administrative person upon administrative person to some people in the field. And it was several years before we actually got into the maintenance division, if you remember my story about how that happened. But it was several years before we got into maintenance. And then, of course, from there, we just kind of grew and expanded in our field service opportunities. And then simultaneously, the other businesses expanded as they needed to for the same kind of reason. So in the real estate company, we brought in transaction coordinators and we brought in marketing people. And their job was to make the agents more efficient by helping them keep track of a transaction once it went pending, so that the agent could do what they were best at, which was continuously source deals and continuously talk to investors. So kind of in every business, I would say that I followed the same model. And that model was to make sure that tomorrow we're more efficient than we were today. And to do that, as we grow as a company, or as we source more clients and as we do more deals and provide service for more people, we've got to be more efficient every single day in how we do things. We call it delegate and elevate. It's a constant battle, but it's a constant activity where we've got to look at what is in that bottom corner that are things that no longer should be on my plate, now need to be delegated to somebody else who could master that, so I can elevate to whatever is the next thing that I can do more efficiently or better for the people that we're servicing.
I noticed you used the word mastery, and I was going to ask you about how do you, because this is a problem I've had in my business where it's like nobody can do it as good as I do.
Yes.
And I know I don't want to say you're not a perfectionist, but you want to provide a level of service that's representative and indicative of your level of integrity and what you envision, like, this is how I want to be treated. And when there were so many gaps in the marketplace as far as how people were being treated and served, hence your businesses came out of those gaps, that you wanted to make sure that the people that you brought on were not just there because of a job or a role or whatever, but you really wanted them to achieve a level of expertise that through your modeling, your SOPs, and how you wanted to see it done. So when it came to that, it almost, and this is just probably what I was hearing, but it almost sounds like you had to hand train all of these people. But I think that you would have created some sort of other training, like train the trainer kind of thing, where you have peers training each other and so on. So how did you manage onboarding and getting all these people to become masters?
Yeah, and you're right. It is a massive undertaking because one person can't train 75 people. It's impossible. But I am definitely a very much a perfectionist. Although I believe perfection is a journey, not a destination. I am definitely striving for perfection every single day in everything that we do, and that keeps me going. That keeps me motivated. And that keeps me looking and edgy. It keeps me edgy. It keeps me looking for the next opportunity where we can deliver a more elevated service. But, to answer your question, initially it was me training them. And then I learned what standard operating procedures were. And we tried to standardize things across the company so that everybody that would come into that specific role now would be trained by their peer, because the peer already understood what the standard operating procedures were. So I was definitely the founder of the operating procedures. I was definitely the founder of exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And then after I trained the lead people in the departments or the managers, or depending on what we're talking about, they then would be responsible for future training their kind of downline or their employees underneath of them. But it did start with me creating the processes or creating the SOPs that we currently live on today, or still live on today, I should say. And then from there, we would kind of train each other, and train managers would train their employees, and so on and so forth. We've brought in HR departments. We brought in different training opportunities. And then I started to really focus on my hiring. I mean, I would say my hiring is probably adjusted 20 times since I started hiring people, trying to get the best of the best, the cream of the crop as far as employees. But my very, very first goal was to just find somebody that I could train the skill. And that's all I worried about. Today, it looks very different in my company. Today, I'm not worried about training you the skill. I'm worried about your attitude. So I hire the attitude, I train the skill. So we spent a lot of time trying to bring people in the early days into our industry that already had experience in our industry. Today, I don't care about that, because what I've realized over the years is that people from different backgrounds, different areas of the world, bring different values to your organization. So I don't focus today on, did you come from the industry that you're trying to apply in. I make sure that you have the right attitude and you fit our core values and you understand our core purpose of why we're in business and what we do and who we do it for. And I can train you on anything, but you have to have the right attitude. So I hire the attitude, I train the skill, and I don't really care if you came from the industry or not, because I'm hoping that you're going to teach me something that I didn't know. Some of my best employees over the years have come from industries that are nothing like what we were doing. Nothing like. Like, for example, uh, you think administrative people for the property management company, because of the high volume of administrative work that they needed to do, would need to be in the property management field. There's a lot of moving parts. One of my best ever employees came from the health industry. Completely opposite. Completely opposite. But again, they brought a skill set and an attitude and a demeanor that worked very well for our organization. So back in the day, we hired for, do you have the skills? Are you coming from the industry? Does it make sense? Like, you would only hire a mechanic that worked as a mechanic previously. It's no longer like that. I don't care if you're a mechanic. I'll teach you how to be a mechanic, but I need you to have the right attitude and I need you to understand what we do as a business. So it's definitely evolved over the years, but that's kind of how it started.
I can see you writing a book called Hire for Attitude.
A- Absolutely. And listen, I had to take a lot of bumps and bruises along the way to learn the right things. I mean, there wasn't a rule book and there wasn't there wasn't an SOP for me. I didn't have any kind of manual to say this is how you do it and this is how you do it. So, but I think that that's one thing that I add to not only my employees and my team and also our investors is I had to create things by learning and making mistakes. So some of some of my best mistakes were our biggest wins in the future, because we learned how to adapt or how to change it and turn it into something successful, versus kind of being the like, woe is me kind of attitude. And, oh, I'm sorry. Like, it's sorry is never good enough. So talking about perfection, sorry is never good enough. You don't say sorry in my world and not have an answer for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I also like is when you're hiring for attitude versus this person has to be a person who's done the exact same thing in another either competitor or another role or another location. And what's really cool about that is, and obviously you have to have the right training, support, and onboarding procedures in place, which it sounds like you developed eventually as you took on this kind of shift in your hiring practices. But these people that are coming in with this open attitude and eagerness to learn, they have the objectivity of questioning things and bringing a level of value that, because you and your, folks that have been doing it for years have a certain way of looking at it. So you kind of get blinders and you don't see those gaps. You don't see opportunities for greater efficiencies, or is this really necessary? Or how about if we do it this way? And those people coming in with that, and if you're creating an environment of bring us your suggestions. If you see something that we can improve, let's get it on the table and work it through and get it into the business, because it's really going to be a benefit. Having that open door thinking of bringing those things in is what makes all of your efficiencies improve. So they're constantly going up. You're constantly creating more savings for your investors and your customers and your clients. And you're also creating a better environment for the team, because you're saving them aggravation from maybe a SOP step that might not have been the most efficient way to do it. But this new person coming in from a healthcare, for example, is like, well, have you thought about doing it this way? Because it might be easier if we do it this way. I think that that's a brilliant approach.
yeah, thank you. And you're so right about that too. I mean, some of our best ideas have come from people that came from an experience outside of our industry. And because they came from something unique and different, they were able to have that critical thinking, or that that kind of like eye-opening like question, like, but why do we do it this way? And those things have evolved to some of our major changes as an organization that created such an incredible value for our clients is those new opportunities, or those just a different way to look at it, a different pair of glasses to see what is going on. Some of our best changes have been through our employees. I always say our employees are our best assets, because they are. Most businesses, I think, worry about their clients, and we worry about our clients, and we want to give the best service, but my employees are my best assets. And without those employees, we couldn't deliver a fraction of the service that we do today to our client base.
And I know you invest in acknowledging them on a regular basis. You very much celebrate your employee workforce. So now that we've kind of talked about the workforce, the people that are boots on the ground delivering the services on your behalf, I'd like to shift and talk about, from a leadership perspective, when you're working with your investors and your clients and your partners that help you source those deals and just this little black book of relationships that you've developed over the years, talk about how your leadership style is executed or embodied in those relationships, because that's a different way to relate to people, and they still are looking to you as a leader. So what is the dynamic there?
Yeah, so again, that is just my insane, just desire to just be exceptional. I don't know. People say there's only one you, and that is so true on so many levels, some positive, some negative. But yes, there's definitely only one me. But I'm just kind of going back to my early days of my mom and education. As a real estate agent or as a business owner, you think about providing a service, and you think about providing great service. But that service that I was providing all these years completely changed when I started to get people asking me my investment thesis or my investment direction. So I switched from being a business operator, real estate broker, owner of all these companies, to a financial advisor for wealthy individuals somewhere like mid-career, right? That's about when then all this happened. And it was when people started to realize that I will figure anything out. And so if there's a barrier, I'm going to figure out how to scale it or how to dig under it, right? I'm going to figure out a way. But I'm going to constantly educate myself. I want to see what's coming in all directions. I want to know the answers before somebody asks me the question. And when I started to realize that people counted on me for financial advice, outside of my expertise, for sure, definitely not, again, what I thought I was getting into when I got into real estate, I just was more driven to really understand everything from a financial perspective so that I could now deliver a service to investors exclusively to help them navigate the best types of investments to achieve the returns that they were looking for in the timeline that they were looking for. So today, my conversations with newer investors or new clients to us is not necessarily about what type of property do you want to buy. It is, my first conversation is, okay, you came to me. How did you hear about me? And what are you looking for? And I get deep and I get down and dirty. I learn about their financial goals. I learn about their job. I learn about whether they're in corporate America and want to leave. I learn about their kids. I learn about where they're currently investing in different types of things, stocks, bonds, you name it, crypto, whatever it is. And then I talk to them about their any experience that they've had, good, bad, or indifferent, in real estate. And based on their goals, based on their financial position, based on their timeline, and based on their experiences, I package together what I feel like is the best opportunity for that investor. So, Terry, you could call me, and today I could tell you, I think your best starting point is the hedge fund. I can get a phone call from Chris, and I tell Chris, you should buy your own assets. That's what you should be doing. Or I could be telling Joe, you've got to invest in this syndication. This is perfect for you. So today, my business is about not just the services. Like if we separate that from our second, those services are the vehicles that achieve the results. But my business, what I do every day now is I am making sure that there's multiple opportunities for people to invest their money, many different ways, many different avenues. Because one of the things that I can tell you is real estate is still the best avenue to invest your money. It has the historically the best returns. It is the most consistent. It's the most tax advantaged. It's the most leveraged, but it's also the highest equity position you could typically get in any kind of investment. So for all those reasons, I want to make sure the market, the types of assets, the money that you have to invest, none of that is a barrier for our investors. So currently today we invest in Pennsylvania, we invest in New Jersey, but you ask me a couple months from now where I'm investing, I bet you I have different states on my list, because for us, it's always about creating the path or creating the avenue for our investors to be able to continue to invest, to continue to increase their wealth, and to continue to achieve whatever financial goals they have. And I should mention, I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't figure out how to put the right people in the right seats. Because originally, and I think you mentioned this, I believe it was on this episode, maybe it was one before, you had mentioned the struggles with people getting out of their own business. Entrepreneurs that start their own business, how hard is it for you to exit because you can't find another you? That is so true. But you don't actually have to find another you. You've got to find people that want it as much as you do, that want to live it and breathe it, because they too will bring something extremely valuable to the organization. But I had to learn some very hard lessons about people and leadership, my management skills over the years, and I had to figure out how I was able to identify the right people in the right seats, because without that, I wouldn't be doing a fraction of what I'm currently doing today, because I wouldn't be able to take my eyes off the business. But I can honestly say that I can, although I still have my hands on everything, I can say that I can honestly take my eyes off the business and it's going to run as efficiently as if I were there every single day. Why? Because I have the right people in the right seats.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it shows with the success that you've had and what you're able to do and continue to expand. So, the last kind of leadership group, if we're going to look at a group of people that I wanted to talk to you about, because this is a different caliber of dynamic that you can encounter, which are these, for example, your joint venture partners. When you have a finance person and you have the asset person, the general manager, and all these different roles, and you're looking at a group of people that may kind of want to elbow each other around a little bit because they all look at themselves as supreme leader, or I'm the expert, so I'm going to do this. So I can imagine a little bit of ego work there. And they're not your employees. They're not your customers in the direct sense. Everyone's our customer because we serve everyone. However, but
Right.
in the traditional sense, they're not technically an investor and that you're working with. And so talk to me as we wrap up this particular topic about leadership, how you have adjusted how you communicate, how you engage, how you inspire, how you co-support these people that are on these teams with you to pull these deals together so you can create an investment product for investors to benefit from. What are some of the things that you've learned there?
So, one of the major things is you pick your partners carefully, both in personal life and in business. You got to pick your partners very carefully. Um, Partnerships fail for a variety of different reasons. One of those reasons is nobody is on the same page about their exit strategy. Another reason that partnerships fail is that nobody's on the same page or has had a discussion about their active involvement, like the hours that they're spending in the deal or in the partnership. So those are the things that typically cause stress in deals. And to alleviate that, what I make sure that I'm doing at all times is communicating those two things. I'm communicating what my exit plans are for whatever we're investing in or whatever we're doing together. And I'm also communicating my involvement time, how much I can honestly do, and where I will focus my energies. And then the partners that I'm looking to partner with must bring an expertise that is outside of what I'm doing. So instead of us having competing experiences or competing expertise, we are bringing value in a different area all the time. What I mean by that is very simply, I am the operator, I'm the deal finder, I'm the broker. I don't need any of those people in my next partnership. That doesn't add value. What adds value is me bringing in the developer, me bringing in the finance guy, like the CPA, bringing in the bank, or bringing in somebody that's bringing in the capital, or maybe as managing investor relations, right? There's so many different things that people can do in a partnership to add value. But I want to make sure that we don't have competing priorities, that we actually have complementary skill sets. And that's how I identify the right type of partnership for me for the future.
But sometimes you run into people that on paper they look great, but their performance is not so much. So, how do you handle
Yep.
that when you get in a deal and you have this team and somebody's not pulling their weight? Can it kill the deal? Can it make it go south? I mean, what are some of the things that are oriented around that mini leadership team, if you will, that partnership that can cause some real problems? And what have you learned to identify those as high risk situations now that you've had a couple under your belt?
So that's a really great question, a loaded question for sure. And we could spend hours talking about why deals go bad and what to do about them. But I will say this. The deals go bad when partners can't get along, and deals go bad when they're competing against each other versus working toward a common goal. So one of the things that I have learned over the years to navigate is always prepare for the what if. So if I'm investing with my spouse or my best friend or my whoever it may be, I have learned over the years from good experiences and bad experiences that you never need to cross every T, dot every I, which means that your contracts are essential and core to getting out of a bad situation if you find yourself in one. Do I think that there's a magical crystal ball that allows you to foresee any bad potential partnership? No, because if that was the case, then I would have looked at my crystal ball and I would have been in bad partnerships myself. And we'll save that for another episode because I got lots to say about that. But there's no crystal ball. So you are going to likely, if you're serious about being in this business, right, you are likely going to find yourself somewhere in some type of partnership if you're doing this type of real estate where it's just not working out the way that you had planned. So I would hope that you would have started with a very ironclad contract that speaks to just this thing. You also need your contracts to speak to what if somebody dies? What if somebody is incapacitated? What if somebody's kid takes over? There's so many things that you can think of, but preparing for the what ifs are absolutely critical in any partnership, no matter who the person is. Family, spouse, doesn't matter, ironclad contracts. And then from there, besides the contract, which will get you out of bad situations, you need to have management agreement. How is the business going to be run, or how is the partnership going to be run? Who is covering what role? And what happens if you don't cover that role or you don't do what you're supposed to be doing? How can you be voted out? How can somebody take over and then you lose some equity position? I mean, there's so many different creative ways to do it. I will say this, I never do anything without my attorney, ever, no matter who I'm partnering with. And I'm always trying to make my contracts better. So like there's always a need to have the right people in your partnership, and attorneys and CPAs are a big piece of that. And everybody's got to get on the same page with that. I don't do handshake deals. I just don't do them. And part of the things that you hear about in the news and in the media are a lot of handshake deals, and you can't fix them because they can't get out of them. But then the other is just bad operators. There are people in this world, unfortunately, that are in it for the money. They're in it for the fees, especially in the syndication world, in it for the fees. And as soon as they collect those fees, man, they're in Tahiti. They're not hanging around to see how well the deal does. I will not invest in a deal that I'm not in control of the operations, number one, because I know I can get results. I will never have an investor invest in a deal that I'm not operating because I know I can control it and get results. And I don't have investors invest in things that I won't put my own money in ever. It's just an ethical boundary that I hold or standard that I hold myself to. I'm never going to ask somebody to put money into something that I wouldn't to put my money in. Because if I'm not confident in the investment, they shouldn't be confident in the investment either. So between the partnership, the legal contracts, and then the operational understanding, and then your exit strategy, I think when you compare all those things or pile all those things together and we have some clarity, you are far less likely to have issues in the future. And if you're an LP listening to this and you're not in control, nor do you ever want to be in control, but you want to get into one of these things, make sure you've done your due diligence on the people operating the deal. That's all I have to say. Make sure you do your due diligence.
Wise words. And I'm glad
Yes.
we talked about this topic because you definitely had a lot to offer. So to our listener, I hope you took notes because this is like a management 101 course right here. Hey, listen, Jen, we've got one more show to go to wrap up this wonderful series, The Story of Jen and the Journey of the Empire Ecosystem. And we're going to be talking about what is ahead. So I'm really super excited about that. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode.
That's it for now. If passive income from real estate investments plays a role in your long-term investment strategy, this show is for you. Thanks for listening. And for more in-depth resources, please head over to growingempires.com.